Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining me today as we spend the next hour on learning how we can take advantage of Microsoft Teams, how to efficiently collaborate and be productive. I'm so grateful that you chose to join me today. And in the past 4 or 5 months, Microsoft Teams has been an essential technology to help us to get our work done despite that we're working remotely. So this is a two-part training series. We're broadcasting live right now on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. So make sure you share this with your colleagues who would benefit from it. And if you have questions, I encourage you to ask questions. Make sure you pop in your questions on LinkedIn Live. If you're watching on Twitter, feel free to post your questions there. But I encourage you to join us on the Ave Point page on LinkedIn and have a great interaction with some of our friends watching today. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about the basics of Microsoft Teams, getting started. And my name is Raymond. I serve as a CMO of Ave Point. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director and MVP. And it's been a wonderful privilege to be involved with this industry and working with this technology in the past couple of years. So if you're wondering, what are we going to cover? For today, like I said, it's a two-part series. It's today and tomorrow. But for today, we're going to cover, first and foremost, what the new modern workplace looks like. We'll talk about how we work, the different modes of working and tools that we use and challenges that we face. And then we'll jump right into how Microsoft Teams can help from perspective of calling, chats, and meetings. And then how can we streamline team collaboration? And then we'll talk about how you can organize and tailor Microsoft Teams so you can use it as effective and as efficient as you can. And then last but not the least, we'll talk about how you centralize tools beyond just Microsoft related tools. And again, having you be more productive and collaborate with your colleagues much better. If you have questions, pop it in LinkedIn. I'm going to look at all the questions. My colleagues are attending as well, so they'll be more than happy to answer your questions too. So with that, let's get started. So if you look at our new modern workplace, this is what it looks like on how we work today. I know some of us are still working remotely. Some of us may be going to the office a little more than others. But regardless of our physical location, we typically work with a group of people, be it with our department or our project colleagues. And the way we work cuts across different layers. One, we certainly work on files or documents. And typically the way we work with files, we work on a PowerPoint or a Word document or a proposal. And when we work together on it, we need a way to share it. And oftentimes we send it an email attachment, or we use SharePoint, or we use Box. And that's certainly okay. We get it done. And then we plan meetings and events. We use some kind of calendaring system, most likely using Outlook or Google Calendar. We track our tasks. There's a lot of different apps for task tracking, and we'll talk about that too. And then we obviously use emails. We have a lot of chat going on. And these days, I see a lot of chat tools being leveraged, and it's not just tools that we use at work, and even consumer chat tools like WhatsApp, LinkedIn Messenger, or Facebook Messenger. And then this last part, which I really miss, is the idea of serendipitous collision, where we're in the office, we're just thinking out loud, talking, and then we come up with a brilliant idea. So this is how we work. And in fact, this is the norm in the past couple of years. We can live with it. It's okay. Some things aren't perfect, but we get the job done, right? But more and more, what we're seeing is because of all this disconnect, and when you think about disconnect, right? Like, what do you mean about disconnect, Dux? So let's say these 6 people, they're working on the same project. In that project, I email, I have a project plan, I have a task. We're all working towards the same goal. The problem is all these different modes of working and communication and collaboration, they're not interrelated at all. Once the project is done, the project plan, the task, has no relationship with the chats that we have. The emails we send for the project knows nothing about the documents we're working on, right? All of these different assets are connected in our heads as a team. And it's fine if we work regularly, but the challenge is now how can we effectively share it, reuse it, and transfer this knowledge. So teamwork today looks like this, friends. Number one, there's a lot of disjointed collaboration in file sharing. We use a hodgepodge of tools. We think we're so fancy, right? We got the latest iPhone, we got the latest Android and latest laptop, but guess what? We use these fancy tools to send emails, it's very unreliable. And in this day of remote work, we're reliant on technology. It's really important for all this to be streamlined and working together. We have a lot of different tools out there. Collaboration is a challenge, but then the other layer of challenge we're facing now is security. We hear a lot about things like ransomware or even social engineering, right? So at some level, we need to make sure we protect our crown jewels. And then we have resources all over the place, right? How can we effectively, now that we're not in the office, still work together? And then last but not the least, what's our solutions for a mobile workforce? And when I say mobile workforce, I'm not talking about mobile phones. I mean, certainly this is a part of it, but now we're dispersed, where some are maybe going back to work, some may live in a place where internet connectivity is not as fast. So how are we addressing all this? And this is what Microsoft realized about 3-4 years ago, and they said, we need a better way to get people to work together. And again, working is not just working on a document or a file, right? There's different layers of working, and boy, when they came up with Microsoft Teams, it truly revolutionized how we can work. Because Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork, and when we say hub, it's that one-stop shop, and provides multiple capabilities. And this is a big shift on how we work. Well, listen to me before we jump right into Teams. You see, a lot of times, right, when we think about tools, it's always a one-trick pony. When we do calls, we're going to use Skype. When we do chat, maybe we use WhatsApp. When we do task management, I'm going to use Asana. When I do documents, I'm going to use Office. And that's what we're conditioned to do. In fact, in our consumer life, right, there's an app for everything. But then that disjointedness, that context switching has a lot of cost. So what Microsoft thought about is like, what if we bring everything into a one-stop shop so an entire team can work together, and regardless of the mode of working, it's still in that one place. And that's what Teams is all about. So sometimes when people are like, oh, Teams is a replacement for Skype, well, it's true. It's also somewhat a replacement for SharePoint. It's also somewhat a replacement for Slack. So it's all of the above, right? So we have to move away from that one app per need mindset to this broader technology that can help us when we work together. Okay, so with that being said, what can Teams do, right? Teams primarily can do 4 cool things, and I'm going to cover 3 things today, and then tomorrow I'll jump on the last part. Teams allows us to do chats, and if you think about chats, we used to do that in Skype, we use WhatsApp, we use Facebook Messenger, so think along that lines, and I'll show you cool stuff. It allows us to do enhanced team collaboration. And again, when I say collaboration, it's not just about working on documents. Collaboration comes in different forms and shapes and sizes, right? So we'll look at that. Teams can help with enterprise communication now. What do you mean by enterprise, right? It's not just PBX calling. We're talking about full-on video, live captioning, transcription, and all this cool stuff. And then last but not the least, Microsoft realized that we're not just using Microsoft tools. We have other tools that we use, and some of it may be non-Microsoft, which is fine. So with Teams, you can customize and extend it to other tools that you may be using as well. So with that being said, right? So again, Teams is the hub for teamwork. It's where you go as a team to get work done. Very similar to Outlook. I'm sure a lot of you use Outlook. Outlook is my command center. It's like up all day long on my 3rd monitor, where Outlook is my command center for my personal productivity. Teams is like the Outlook for your team, your department, your project team. In a perfect world, you go to work, you're going to live and breathe in Teams along with your immediate team to get stuff done. Okay, so let's start with the first capability of Teams. It's the idea of effectively facilitating calls, chats, and meetings. And this is something I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but just to provide you context, some of you may be using Skype for Business already in the past, and this is a natural first step to Microsoft Teams, where you can use what you had in Skype, and some of you may be using Skype for actual calls with phone numbers and whatnot. You can transfer that capability with Teams, so Teams can certainly do it. But in addition to those type of phone calls and whatnot, you can extend that to other type of calls as well. Similar to Skype, you could do just straight up audio calls or video calls. And just like Skype, Teams is available across multiple platforms. I can access Teams from the browser. I can download a client to my computer, or I can download an app on my mobile device, and it can be any device. In fact, the mobile app may have some features that are really ideal for mobile devices that's not available in your desktop devices. And when I say desktop, it doesn't have to be Windows. It could be a Mac or Linux or non-Microsoft device. So you can communicate in Teams through calling. So the other part of Microsoft Teams, and this is part that Skype transitioned to if you're using Skype, you can communicate through chat as well. And this is something that's a major upgrade from Skype. So let me kind of explain why. Let me show you some of the cool things you could do with Teams. So to access Microsoft Teams, this is my Office 365 environment. All you have to do is log into Office 365. And in Office 365, as you can see, you have all these different apps, and one of the apps is Teams. So when you click on it, it brings up Microsoft Teams, and this is the Microsoft Teams interface. And like I said earlier, you can download Microsoft Teams as a desktop client or a mobile app. And in Microsoft Teams, if you look at some of the different aspects of this, let's start on the left side. On the left, it shows activity, so latest activity notifications. I'll talk about that in a second. And then obviously I talk about calls, where you could do calls very similar to any web-based phone calling capability. So there's that. And then there's chat, right? So let me talk about chat for a second here. I feel like chat is one of the most underutilized tools, because unlike Skype, certainly Skype had chat. The challenge with Skype chat is it's very basic, right? Where you can chat, you can put text, but that's about it. You can't really put pictures or put documents. But the cool thing with the chat here is not only can let's say I want to start a chat, right? I want to start a chat with a colleague here. Let's see, Barry. And I can say, hi, Barry. That's straightforward. It's basic text. But here's the other part that's really cool. If you look at the interface of Teams, my chat with Barry, first and foremost, is persistent. Now, what do we mean by persistent, friends? Even if I shut down Teams, I open it back up, my chat lives there. And that's a big difference with Skype. The chat is not persistent. Once you shut down Skype, it's gone. The only way you can find the chat is you got to go to Outlook. The next thing is there's a lot of different ways to send my message, not just text. I can put rich text. I can put a Giphy. I can say good morning in a more visual way, right? So I could do that. And I could add a lot of other stuff. Now, here's the other part that's really cool. In the chat, there's other aspects that I can see. Obviously, if I hover over Barry, it tells me his role, his phone number, what have you. I can look at all the files I've worked with Barry on. So for example, let's say I'm chatting to Barry and I decide, you know what, let me find a document I want to share with Barry here. Here you go. So I'm going to share a checklist of remote work preparedness with Barry. So I could say, hey, check this out. Seems like I can't type today. There you go, friends. So as I share this, right, not only it's in context of our chat. Guess what? It's also organized in that files tab where all the files I'm working with Barry on will be there. And from a security perspective, only Barry and I can access it. And not only can I share it, when I click on the document, guess what? It's available. I can look at it, or I can open it up or download it too. And obviously, if it's a, I think it's still rendering. See, yeah. So this is another PDF. There you go. Even if it's PDF, look at that. It renders in Teams, even if you're on the phone. So friends, what that means is you don't need a separate app. You don't need like Acrobat, or you don't need Office. It just opens up in Teams in the context of chat. So that's a big upgrade from Skype. The other thing I love, and I do this all the time, I don't know about you, I do a lot of screenshots. So I can take a screenshot, for example. I can copy, I can paste, I could do that. So chat is a massive upgrade. So this is cool. The other thing that's really cool is the ability for me now to do group chats, very similar to consumer group chat tools. Think WhatsApp, think Viber, think Facebook Messenger when you can create group chat. I don't have to explain group chat to you. I'm sure you all know what that is. So for example, right, let me find a chat. I was chatting this morning with my colleagues, Charlie and Michael. We're working on a project here. I see a question coming in. So Charlie and Michael, right, we're on this chat. We're talking about stuff. So check this out. I can call this the DMC chat. There you go. And why is that important? Well, certainly at any point in time, I can look up Charlie and Michael. But now, anytime I want to talk to them, because let's say we don't talk for 3 weeks, right? I could just do a search. I could do DMC chat. Boom, it comes up. I can just jump on that chat. So I really like that capability, and it allows me to, again, communicate with my colleagues and my team better through chat as well. Okay, so we got a question here. Again, this is okay. So the question from Saliha is, can you talk about Teams with Planner? Absolutely, different apps. We're going to talk about that. Let the questions come in. Happy to answer it. So first and foremost, I just want to get a temperature check for friends watching right now. What do you think so far? The pace? Let me know. Thumbs up, thumbs down. So far, so good. Would love your feedback. So my recommendation, you want to use group chats for ad hoc conversation. What you don't want to do in group chat is use group chat to work on a project. I mean, you may start in a group chat that leads to a project, but as you're working on the project, there's another mechanism in Teams for you to use. It's not group chat. Group chat is really informal, ask question, greetings. It's akin to office chit chat, right? But it's not really around a formal communication channel working towards a goal. Okay, so that's your calling and chat. So let's talk about meetings, right? So a lot of us, especially today, rely on meetings because we're remote, and especially remote meetings using tools like Teams. Teams has a phenomenal capability to facilitate remote meeting, not just the video or the audio calls, but other features as well. So I'm going to show you an example here. I pre-recorded a video. I turn off the audio because you'll get the gist of it. So first and foremost, when you do a meeting in Teams, you're able to do video. And I know, especially in this day and age where video is critical because we're all remote, the video quality is much better than Skype, right? And a lot of us are so used to using Zoom. Teams is already capable of providing that screen view. Right now, you could do 3x3, 9 people on the screen, but it's coming soon. You could do up to 49, right? Then the other cool thing with Teams, so let's start talking about what other cool thing. You could do live captioning. Check this out, right? In this meeting, as the person is talking, the words are coming out. This is cool. This is like, very inclusive, especially for folks that may be hearing impaired. And soon, what's going to happen is this live captioning capability will also be available in multi-languages. So if I'm speaking in English right now and you turn on live captioning, you can say, I want to see the words in Spanish or German or Chinese. I know it may look like a bad kung fu movie, but the gist of it is we want to be inclusive to some of our colleagues who may not understand the language we're using. The other thing that's really cool with these meeting capabilities is the ability for you to record. As you run the meeting, you hit record, and as soon as the meeting is over, the recording is available. And if you so choose, you can have auto transcription as well. Now, what do you mean by that, Dux? Imagine you missed a meeting and it's hour long and you don't have time to watch the entire meeting. You're just interested in certain topics. Friends, what you could do, you can run a search around against the meeting. You can say, okay, search on the words Dux is promoted. And because of the transcription, the search will just jump right into the part of that meeting and play right then and there. Is that cool or what? So these are just some of the innovations around meetings. And how do you start a meeting? I mean, there's certainly a couple ways, very straightforward. So it's nothing out of the ordinary here. So if you want to start a meeting, really 3 ways to do this, right? Number 1, you could do it in Teams. In fact, I do everything in Teams now. So you can hit a new meeting. You can, very similar, you put title, attendees, what have you. You can do it that way. Or you can go to Outlook, just like how you do it you've done it in the past with Skype. You go to Outlook, create a meeting, and just say location is Teams. And once you do all that, it'll be in people's calendar, and then they can jump on the meeting. So that's one way. The other way of starting a meeting, and these are more ad hoc, is in a chat, you can click on the video call or call, and then now you have your ad hoc calls, right? The third way, actually, and this is more related to a topic we're going to talk about in a second here, is you can create a meeting within a team channel. So I'll get to that once we get to talking about creating teams. So those are some of the just key things with meetings, and there's tons of innovations coming out of the meeting capabilities. I'm sure you've already seen the together mode. If you watch the NBA, my son loves the NBA. What you see is all the fans, they're using Microsoft Teams in together mode. So they're actually in a video meeting that they do. Just some tips here on how you facilitate inclusive meetings. There's no need for a 30-minute meeting. Make it 25 minutes or 50 minutes. Use video as much as you can. I know there's that video fatigue, but you set the expectation. Look, at least once a week when we do team meetings, it's through video. It's good to see each other. And use Meet now for ad hoc calls. I mean, there's only so much you can do with chat. I always love just let's jump on a call and knock this out, right? Okay, so a couple other questions. Channel and chats. When would you post a channel? Okay, we'll talk about channels in a second. Group chats have grown into projects. Got it. We'll handle that. What are the best processes or interactions to first target drive adoption? We'll get to that as well. Really great questions here. Keep them coming. So I'm keeping track of all these questions. Okay. What we've done is we produce a guide. It's available, downloadable today. It's our good friend Matt Wade put together a guide with Sven on how can you have rockstar meetings in Microsoft Teams. It's a free download. Here's the link, or you just search this, you'll find it. I'll share this PowerPoint with you as well. So that's the first chunk of capabilities that Microsoft Teams offers. Calling, chats, and meetings. And those are very straightforward. We're all used to that, right? That's why a lot of people are comparing things like Skype to Teams or Zoom to Teams due to the calling, chat, and meeting capability. But let's now get into, I would say, a bigger part of Teams that's really exciting, but at the same time, this part is totally new to a lot of people. Microsoft Teams allows us to do team collaboration effectively. So let me put some context into this, right? Remember that slide I showed, the very first slide I showed? I said, look, we work as a team, as a department, as a project team, and we use a bunch of tools in different places. Email, project tasks, documents, file sharing, attachments. The concept is we have one common group of people what if we can have this one common group of people work in the same technical location and still provide those capabilities to be able to share files, work on documents, track tasks, etc. Right? And that is through the capability of creating a team in Microsoft Teams. I know the name's kind of weird, but I'm just a messenger here. So how do you do that, right? So in fact, let me kind of walk you through this. Let me walk you through this. I just saw another question. How do you create live events? We'll talk about that later on. Actually, tomorrow I'll talk about live events. Those are more advanced stuff you could do. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. This is a two-parter here. There's so much ground to cover. I'll cover live events tomorrow. Okay. So let me first walk you through this concept of creating a team. Okay. So first and foremost, let's consider, when do I create a team in Microsoft Teams? And this is very important to put context, right? And this is sometimes people don't think about. We use Microsoft Teams to create a team if we're working towards a common goal or a common project. So for example, as a department, I'm with the marketing team here at Ave Point. As a marketing team, we have a common function day in, day out. We have work that needs to get done. We have deliverables. We have activities. So we're working towards a common goal. We need to produce something on a regular basis. So using Microsoft Teams makes sense. Or if you're working on a project, right? You have deliverables, you have milestones, you have communication to stakeholders. Y'all working towards a common goal. That's when you can take advantage of a team. You don't just create a team randomly, right? It's like creating random SharePoint sites or file folders. So you don't want to do that. So with that being said, okay, let's go ahead and create a team. So again, you go to Microsoft Teams and I can create a team. So when you create a team, there's a couple options. You can build a team from scratch, or you can use these things called templates. Traditionally, if your organization has been using Teams for quite some time now, templates can be created and you get the concept of templates, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But for the purpose of this training, let's create a team from scratch. So let me go back. So I can build a team from scratch, and it's going to ask you, what kind of team will this be? Personally, and this is me, again, ducks, the purpose of a team is for a group of people to work together to produce a specific set of deliverables or outcome. The last thing I want is to have too many cooks in the kitchen, right? And so oftentimes, I will create a team and recommend you keep the team private, okay? I know other people have different ideas around that, but stay with me here. A team, in my mind, while the technology can support up to 5,000 people in a team, to me, that doesn't make sense, right? A team is a small group of people getting some stuff done, and if you put too many people there, nothing will get done. So I'm going to give my team a name. I'm going to call it Ave Point Marketing, right? Or you can call it X Project. And I can put a little description. I can hit create. As soon as I hit create, it's going to ask me who I want to add to the team, right? I can add Barry again. I can add my colleague Antoine. I can add Tom. I can add Ray, and I can add where's, oh, I was gonna add Molly. Okay, let me add Murugan. Okay, so I've added all these different people, and obviously they have different roles, so let me hit close. So let me pause here for a second and let me kind of recap what we just done, right? So I went to Teams, I created a team for the purpose so that my marketing organization can use this so we can all work together and have this one-stop shop. Now, when I say I, who are you, Docs? Are you IT? That's why you're able to create a team, or who are you? So I'm the CMO. I'm not IT. I'm in marketing, and the beauty of Teams is similar to some of the tools you're familiar with, be it Slack or Google. As long as it's enabled, I can create these things myself. I don't have to rely on IT. And it's not a bad thing, right? So I'm being empowered to help myself, and IT can take care of the heavy lifting. Obviously, IT has to do a lot of setup in the back end to make sure I could do this correctly, all that good stuff. But it's a great self-service mechanism so I can help myself. Now, once the team is created, notice I have a bunch of other teams here, so don't worry about that. Let me kind of walk you through the different components of a team. So now I have a team called Ave Point Marketing. What do I see, right? So in a team, it's made up of a couple different things. The first thing you have to think about or consider is these things called channels. So channel is a way to organize communication, information, and collaboration. Okay, so it's just how you organize things. So for me, the way I want to organize this is organize it based on the different marketing disciplines that we have. So let's say I have product marketing, right? I'm going to organize this based on, let me add a couple more. Digital marketing. I'm going to add one more for our another channel for our content marketing. So you see the idea now. Well, Dux, what if it's a project? Well, it's up to you. If you want to organize it based on phases, right? Like requirements channel, development channel, testing channel, release channel. So again, think about how you organize your work as a team and you organize a channel that way. Next, within the channel, by the way, there's a channel called general that's always going to be there. You can't get rid of it. So think of it as that's like a catch-all channel. It's like a water cooler channel, right? So within a channel, what do we have? So we have a team, we have channels, and then within a channel, there's these things called tabs. Tabs is a way for you to access resources for the channel. So let me repeat. Tabs are ways for you to provide resources to the channel. So one resource is what's called, it's a post. This is where all the conversations happen within a channel. So I can talk to the folks that's part of this team. Who did I add here? Okay, so notice I can only talk to a few people, right? I can talk to the people I added to the team. So I can say, okay, this will be our water cooler channel, okay? So I could do that. So I can talk to each person individually, or I can talk to everyone as a group. Hello, Ave Point Marketing, right? Make sure you put the right info in the relevant channel, okay? So there you go. So the idea now is, as a marketing team, right? Any marketing related stuff will be in this team, and in each of this channel, all the work around content, digital, and product will fall in place. What else is here? I have a files tab where all the working files will be there. I'll show you my example in a second here, how we use it here at Ave Point. There's another tab called Wiki. I don't really use this, and if you don't like it, you can actually remove it. The reason why I don't use Wiki is we use OneNote a lot. I love OneNote. Okay, so it's still not removing. I'll remove it later. But the cool thing is I can add more tabs, right? And these tabs obviously are a lot of the Microsoft related technologies, but you can also add non-Microsoft technologies, which I'll talk about tomorrow. So I'm going to add a tab for OneNote. This is where we collect all of our information. And now we have this group OneNote notebook we can use. So if you think about it, right, think about a one-stop shop. This is a place where, as a team, we talk to each other. All our files are here. All of our marketing notes are here. So now we have this true one-stop shop. So just to recap, right? What happened? What happened here? So when you create a team, behind the scenes, it takes advantage of other Office 365 technologies. When you create a team, it creates this thing called a Microsoft 365 group. Think of it as like a keychain that holds everything together. And then it also creates what's called a SharePoint site, where it's the content service. So think all the files, all the pages, which I'll show you in a second, will reside in SharePoint. It creates a group calendar that's powered by Outlook. It creates what's called Planner. It helps with task management. And then it creates a OneNote notebook as well. These are the basic things that it creates, but you can add more stuff to it, as you'll see tomorrow as I add more stuff to it. Okay. All right, so John has a question. We're launching global teams, and I need ideas on how to set up proper governance and guidelines. You've come to the right place. We have tons of guidance around that. My colleagues would pop in some links on our blogs and ebooks. We have an ebook actually called Tailoring Microsoft Teams that helps IT set up their Teams environment for organizational deployment. So make sure you check that out. So how do you use Teams then, right? So for me, as a CMO, we use Teams a lot to get our work done. So somebody was asking earlier, okay, how do you drive adoption, right? So this is what we did. So listen carefully, right? So one of the things that I realize is, as a marketing organization, I'm sure any department or any project team, it's so overwhelming, right? We use SharePoint to put all of our files. We have group email. We have Jira. We have all these tools all over the place. And that was, that was life. But then when Teams came out, I realized, you know what? Life could be much, much different. So here's what we did. And I'm going to give you a tip here because somebody was asking about adoption. So when Teams came out, I saw the potential. But I realized I cannot just flip the switch and tell everybody, stop everything you're doing and just use Teams. That's not realistic, right? So the first lesson here is, what's the lowest hanging fruit can you get started with? And second is, if you get started, everybody has to be committed, from leadership to your colleagues in the team. And then the third point is, low hanging fruit, everybody has to be committed. The third point is, you got to get rid of something when you introduce something new. So this is what we did first. So when Teams came out, I don't know, about almost 3 years ago now, the first thing we did is this. We said, you know what? Instead of any group email for the entire marketing team, every time we feel like sending an email to everybody, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to move this group communications to a Teams conversation. And why? Number one, there's more visibility and it's more open, especially to new colleagues, and leaving it in email inbox and all the conversation is just messy. So here's an example. So my colleague Spencer is our global campaign manager. So, he posted this in our marketing team under the general channel back in last year, right? He said, hey, we have a new webinar. Here's the topic. Here's the landing page. Here's the graphic page. Can the following that are tagged please help with the distribution and promotion? Megan, can you do social? Sarah, can you connect with sales? Brent, can you do a blog? And FYI, Michael, Chisa, so a bunch of our colleagues. You see, our team is about a team of 55 people around the world. We serve customers around the world, right? So if you look at this, it looks like a group email. And in fact, we used to do this as an email. What happens if this is an email? You know what happens, right? There's going to be, oh, what about this? How about that? Maybe we should do this. All this email back and forth is a mess. And a lot of you are living that right now. So when Spencer posted this, couple of things, right? People that are mentioned here liked it. And even people that are not mentioned here, but because they're part of this team, liked it, meaning, oh, good stuff, I got it. Thanks for the heads up. And then Other people may have questions, right? Martina had questions. Can we invite our doc database as well? Here's a new update. So now you're seeing all this interaction in a threaded conversation in a team, right? But here's the other benefit. So let me bring up my Teams environment here. So this is our Teams environment, Ave Point Mark, and this is the live environment, right? We have different channels. But here's the cool part. I don't have the time of day to read every single thing, every single message. But the cool thing is, even if there's activities that does not involve me, right? So for example, this one, we have a new ebook. I'm not even mentioned here, but I have visibility into what Sarah is working on. Imagine if this was an email and I'm not really part of that, so I have no clue, right? Then I would have to bug Sarah, hey Sarah, are we working on that ebook? Whereas with this, I see it. Huge. And another beautiful thing, friends, if I have a new colleague that joins marketing, I don't have to forward 10,000 emails, hey, read this to catch up, check this out. Well, no, because now you're part of marketing, I'm going to add you to the team and just scroll through all the conversations in the last 3 months. You talk about knowledge transfer and onboarding, this is big. Now, did it happen overnight? Did this behavior change overnight? Of course not. It took us about 3 weeks to get used to doing group communications in a team. Now, some of you may be wondering then, why is this better than a group chat? Let me put it this way. Think of group chat as like group chat. It's like WhatsApp. It's like, Facebook Messenger. A threaded conversation is like a post on Facebook with threads or a post on LinkedIn. It's more organized, it's searchable, whereas group chat is very informal. It's really hard to keep track of. Yeah. Sean had a question. How do you get usernames to show up as first names when you're tagging them in the email? I didn't tag them in the email. So Sean, I'm not quite sure, but maybe what you're asking is when I added them into Teams, I just typed their names because Teams is connected to Office 365 and Azure AD. So all their logins are tied into that. So their names came up. Depending on how it's set up in your organization, sometimes maybe it's not the full name. Maybe you have time in their email. So it depends how it's set up in your organization. But the way we're set up is I could just type people's name and they'll show up. I don't have to type in their full email. Yep. So just a recap here, basic shape of a team. And by the way, this PowerPoint will be available once we're done. I'll post the link. You'll find this video and this PowerPoint as well. So the team is, again, the security boundary, only a limited group of people. Channels is the communication information boundary, and the tabs are resources to support the channel. Like I said, conversations are at the heart of the team collaboration. And some of you are also thinking, well, Dux, how can I keep up with all these teams and conversation? Well, let me ask you the same thing. How do you keep up with emails? Do you read every single freaking email? I don't, right? So we gotta have an open mindset to shift, right? Think of Teams as a better way of doing things. It's not an additional way, and that's critical. You want to drive adoption, you got to take something away and introduce something new that's better, and that's key. And the challenge, oftentimes, I'm guilty of this as IT, is we keep throwing new tools. Oh, here's Teams, go have a good life. Well, no, we can't expect people to figure out what it is. We have to provide guidance and say, okay, today you're doing group email communications. Guess what? It's better in Teams, right? At mention people or the team to alert them of your message. You see, the thing is, if you at mention people, so let me show you this example, friends. So like this one, right? Notice. Let me go back here. So notice I at mention Ave Point Marketing or Barry or Ray. When I at mention them, they will get notification. By default, they'll get email notifications and they can turn it off. By the way, I turned off all my Teams notification because I have the app, I see it. And then they'll see in their activity that they've been mentioned. So that way we can be intentional in making people pay attention to certain things, right? So this is another example, structure of a real life team, where we have, the team, the channels, and the different tabs. I'll talk more about tabs later on. Yeah. So what are some of the use cases, right? So I talked about enhancing email communication. That's definitely a quick win right there. The second quick win around team-based communication collaboration is you can enhance document collaboration, because again, how many of you are still sending attachments, working on proposals? It's just messy. So by having teams, right, what I could do is, let's say, let me go back to my content marketing, right? So let's say I'm working on a new blog post, right? So I could say, here is my new blog. All right. And then let me find, or let me say, here's my new PowerPoint. So here's a new PowerPoint I'm working on, etc. Where'd that go? Okay, here you go. I'm gonna drag and drop it. There you go. And it's a PowerPoint or a new product. Can you review? I'm gonna have Barry review, right? I just drag and drop it, and again, it's in my content marketing. And then when Barry sees it, he can click on it, and then as soon as he clicks on it, it opens up again in Teams, similar to the PDF you saw earlier. But guess what? If Barry's more comfortable working it in PowerPoint software natively, he could open desktop app, and he can go here and tweak it. But here's the cool thing. Since this PowerPoint document actually is living in SharePoint, I said SharePoint earlier, that it powers content services. It has a feature called co-authoring. It allows up to 99 people to jump on the same PowerPoint, Excel, Word, and work on it. Think about that. So now when you think about collaboration, right? I know a lot of you used to do this, or even to this day, you're passing like this document and waiting for other people to work on it. What if you can all jump on it at the same time, right? Oh, good question. Joanne's asking, is favoriting the same as following a channel? Absolutely, that is correct. Yeah. So again, it's a behavior change, right? And then the other thing that's important is you have to clarify purpose of emails versus Teams. So in our company, we made the shift, not just marketing, as an organization. Email is here. We're not saying we're going to kill email. There's a purpose for email, but email is actually used for broadcasts. Email is used for announcement. And email is used for one-on-one, right? Like if there's something I need to talk to my colleague, we email back and forth. That's cool. No big deal, right? But for any type of work, any type of collaboration, any type of task, email is a no-no. We do all of that in Microsoft Teams, right? So like I said, move your team communications from email. This is actually a funny screenshot. Apparently there's a government agency that somebody mass emailed the whole agency and everybody's doing reply all, right? You've been there, you don't want that to happen. So having a team conversation in Teams makes much more sense. Andrea, do you know what has held up the functionality to forward receive Outlook message into Teams? Not using the Teams Oh, that new functionality, got it. So for those not familiar, this is actually a cool feature. Today in Microsoft Teams, you can actually forward an email to a channel. So let me kind of show you what that's like. It's cool because, some of us, and here's the use case, right? Some of us may receive an email from an external entity. Let's say a customer emails you. And you thought, wow, this email is pretty cool. I need to loop people in this email. You know how it is, right? You loop your internal people in, you talk about it, and then you respond to the customer. But so instead of looping people in on email to talk about it, what if you can take that email and forward it to Teams? and then you talk about it in Teams and figure, the solution. So every channel actually has an email address. So if you do get email address, it will give you the email address, and then there you go. And then you can take that email address, and then you can forward an email to it. So the actual forwarded email will show up in the channel, and you can talk about it. So it's available today. What Andrew is talking about is this feature where you can customize the email, because right now the email is just some random email Microsoft creates. It is coming. Just look at the roadmap on Office 365. It'll tell where it's going to drop. So I don't think it's available just yet. Yeah. Okay. So again, some more guidance on how you help email addicts adjust to Teams. A lot of the stuff I already talked about, and you'll get this PowerPoint as well. What do you all think so far? I just want some quick feedback. If you drop it on LinkedIn, good stuff. If you feel like this is good stuff, make sure you share this and invite your colleagues tomorrow as well. So some other tips with the remaining time we have. So we talked about how we use Teams for calling, for chatting, for meetings. We talked about how we use Teams for team collaboration from a perspective of moving email to Teams, working in Teams instead of email, working on documents in Teams, organizing work based on channels. So we covered all that, and we'll talk more tomorrow. But here are some tips on how you better organize and tailor Microsoft Teams. So one of the things I do a lot is I set status message, especially these days where we're working remote. And this is very helpful because it allows me to focus, and gives context and expectation of my colleagues as to what I'm working on. So all you have to do is you go to your profile picture, you click on the drop down, and you can put a little message there. And then what happens is once it's there, it will pop up if your colleague tries to reach you and you're not available. So it's a good expectation setting. And then from a meeting perspective, it's a great way to elevate the experience. So right now, right? Instead of just setting up the meeting, now that within the channel, for example, right? Look at the digital marketing channel. I can organize a meeting. So let's say we're working on, like this one. We're working on this proposal. I'll say I'll schedule a meeting about this. To discuss. So now, friends, I can create a meeting that's in the channel. Discuss new PPT. I don't know. Let's do it next next week, and do not repeat. There you go. So now I created the meeting, right? So now it's in the context of the channel. So we do the meeting. I record it. So now it's along the same thread, or it's along the same channel that I can go to. So it helps you set up that pre-meeting. You talk about it. You set it up. And during the meeting, you have action items. You shared content. You record it. So for colleagues who couldn't join, or just record it, so for future colleagues, they can watch it. And then post-meeting, you have all this good stuff, right? So that's another good way to organize how you use Teams. Filter activity by @mention. Again, I'm a part of a bunch of teams. I get @mention all the time. So if it's a lot for me to figure out, I can go to my activity and I can filter it based on if I'm mentioned. So I'm not mentioned here, and so here we go. Just filter where I'm at mention, or filter based on replies, all that good stuff. So filter it based on @mention so you can focus on what you need to pay attention to. Bookmark a message or content, right? So sometimes there's so much stuff, but there are things you want to remember. So I can easily do that. I can go to a team conversation, for example, and I can save this. So once I save it, all right, I can easily go to my profile and look at save, and all the saved message will appear there. So that's how you bookmark. I think I didn't hit save. Let me do this again. Oh, I did hit save. Yeah. So it took a few seconds to kick in. So it will show up here in a second. But once you save it, it will allow you to quickly go to your saved content. Pin a team or a channel. So you know, sometimes it's overwhelming to see tons of stuff. What you could do is you can focus and say, you know what, I'm gonna let's see. Let me go to, I'm trying to find my marketing here. There you go. I can pin this, right? So when I pin it, it will show up top, right? It's pinned. So it's like favorites, if you may. You do that in Outlook. You do that in File Explorer and Windows Explorer. So you can certainly do this. So if you want to learn more, some of the cool ways to organize and tailor teams, we have another free ebook called Everyday Etiquette in Microsoft Teams, and you can check this out. All right. Oh, Susan was asking, does anyone know about the team meeting limit moving up from 300 to 1,000 attendees? Yes, it's Microsoft announced it. So if you go to the tech community, the Teams blog, again, the timeline, I don't know exactly when, but it should be soon. List app with Teams, updates to do in Planner. In fact, you can go to the List app today, even if you don't see the icon. Here's the trick. Here's the little hack. All you have to do is go to Office 365. In fact, let me show this to you. For those interested in a new app called List, so all you have to do, if it's not showing up in your environment, go to OneDrive, and here's a little hack, friends, where it says OneDrive.aspx. Just change it to List, and then voila, List will show up. Is that cool? All right, feel free to send me DoorDash or Amazon gift card for that tip. Lastly, the fourth thing I want to cover today. Teams is a great way to centralize all the relevant tools. Like I said, it's a one-stop shop for your team. And this is so powerful because we know there are other tools beyond Teams, right? Beyond Microsoft tools. So in this scenario, what I've done, or at least in the team I use day in, day out with my colleagues in marketing, not only do we have all the relevant channels, but check this out. We have all the tabs that we use for our work. All the files are there. We have a tab called Request. This is hooked up to a form, which I'll talk about tomorrow, that has an automated workflow where my colleagues in the business would make a request to marketing, and it shows up here. Our intranet shows up here. Our Yammer environment shows up here. We monitor marketing-related aspects. I see our GTM Central for all the assets. I see a translation request form. So all of our tools are here. Jira is here. We can hook up Adobe Creative Cloud. And why is this important, right? This reduces context switching. So imagine if I have a new colleague that joined marketing, on top of the ability to see all of the conversations and acquire all the knowledge around what we do. They don't have to go to 10,000 places to access all the tools. In the past, I would have to say, okay, go here and use this login, go there and use that login. But today, as long as they're living and breathing in Teams, all the tools they need are right there. So the other thing too is to use relevant tools is the use of bots, right? So one of the cool capabilities, I'll tackle this more tomorrow, but it's the ability to use different kinds of apps. So in Teams, there's an app store, right? There's tons of stuff. One of the app that I love, and in fact, we created it because customers are requesting for it. It's free. It's called Ava. Ava allows you in an automated way to retrieve things that you deleted. I know you don't do that. For me, you know, I delete email. I delete my documents in my OneDrive or SharePoint. And then 4 weeks later, I realized I need it back. It's not in my recycle bin anymore because I emptied it. And the problem is, if I want it back and it's not in my recycle bin, I would have to go to IT, right? And IT is very busy. So we created Ava so that in a self-service way, think of it as Siri, right? I can say, hey, Ava, can you retrieve a file for me? So Ava will say, do you remember what that file or anything about that file name? I can say, you know, all I remember, there's letter O, whatever, and I hit submit. And then Ava would go look for it. And then I don't really have that, that's fine. Or even restore an email, right? So it's a self-service way. And this is another relevant tool that just helps my productivity. And there's tons of this out there that you can take advantage of. So, boy, that hour went by so fast. Hopefully this was beneficial. This is available on demand on LinkedIn. I'll drop the link to the PowerPoint. And I hope you come back tomorrow. We've covered a lot of good ground today. We have tons of resources. Here's another one. Another awesome ebook on all the other tools in Office 365, when to use what, so make sure you check that out. And then here's my contact info. Don't be a stranger. Connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You'll find me. If you have questions, drop me a note. But other than that, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this worthwhile, and I'm happy to do more of this. Just let me know, drop it in the chat. And other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe. Have a great rest of the day, and make sure you wash your hands. All right? Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.